So the Germans still thought the invasion was coming at Calais, at Dover, the short area. Okay, that morning, what we needed was a couple of hours to get our people up the beach, secure the beachhead before the Germans could counterattack. So what you guys saw in the movie, really, and somebody freaking told somebody in my honors class that we were watching the whole movie. Who's the snitch?
It was not me.
Yes,
okay.
it was.
Thing,
you were just talking about Grace. She's the one that told me.
No, okay. No, the thing was that she asked me what we were doing. She asked me what we were doing, and I said, "Oh, we're doing that." She's like, "Oh, I walked by and you guys were watching the movie," and I said, "Oh, yeah, yeah." And so that's why she found out.
And then she brought it up in class in front of everybody.
I didn't tell her directly. She found out.
She figured it out.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just no big deal. All right. So anyhow, guys, they were babysitting that bridge, right? That was the paratroopers that came in. All right. And guys, what would have happened is if the Germans figured it out sooner that this was actually where the invasion was taking place in Normandy, they could have thrown us back into the sea. But Hitler did not release the reserves until about noon. Hitler was not sleeping good, guys. Okay? What is wrong? Hitler was not sleeping well because the Russians were beating the Germans back on the Eastern Front. We're landing here, and he's just not. He's going mentally. He's not there. Okay, and so they were giving him sleeping pills, and General Jodl, who is his aide de camp, his top general, that's like with Hitler, doesn't want to wake him up that morning because Hitler's sleeping. Okay, and so they did not send the reinforcements till about noon. We got off the beach, okay, and we're able to hold it. Safe beachhead. So D+7, okay, D-Day +7, we've landed 326,000 men, 50,000 vehicles, and 100,000 tons of supplies. Okay, so from here on out, we're going to break out. Okay, so this is where we land. This right here says D+90. All right, so in the movie, obviously, this is a fake story, but they're out here, walking around and with the Germans around, okay? But this is D+90, okay, that they take. Okay, this is about 6 weeks later. You can see how far we are, okay? The beaches are up here. So this is how far we are 6 weeks later. So we're going to be going out across the hedgerow. You guys know how in Kansas we have these lines of trees that divide property? We built those trees or planted those trees back in the 1930s because of the Dust Bowl. Okay, so it would kind of create windbreaks across Kansas, so all the soil wouldn't blow away. Well, in France, guys, they have these hedges. You guys grew up watching the cartoon movie Over the Hedge? Yeah. Right? No? Okay. Well, these hedges, like a row of bushes, right? These could be 6 foot, 8 foot tall, thick. You don't know what's on the other side of the hedge. You understand? You can't see what's on the other side. So remember the paratroopers that we dropped in? They gave them these little children toys. They're called thumb depressors. You push down, it goes click, and you let go, it goes click. So you push it, click, click. With me? So you land on the other side of this hedge, you hear something, you don't know who it is, could be a German, could be one of your people. So you use the thumb depressor. 1 click is responded by 2 clicks. So you go click, click. Guy on the other side hears that. He goes click, 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 click. And you know it's one of your guys because of the hedges. You with me? Now, one of the standard issue weapons for the Germans is a bolt-action rifle, which you eject the cartridge and reload one like this. Click, 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 click. So you can do this, click, 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 or do click, click, and the guy on the other side is a German reloading his weapon. You may think it's your guy, but it's not. Follow that? In that movie, The Longest Day, that I had up here, this one here, that happens. This is a really good movie, by the way. It's 3 hours long. It's the longest movie. It's the longest day. Okay, gives you the British, the American, the French, and the German perspective in this movie. It's pretty good. It's like Saving Private Ryan with no plot and not as gruesome. Okay, so across the hedgerows. Now, this is what infantry looks like in World War II. A lot of times, you got a Sherman tank here. This is an American tank. Okay, and you guys saw the German tank, yes? Did any of you guys? I don't know. Jude's not here. Any of you guys know what kind of tank that was in the movie? Is that a Tiger? Ooh, dog. That thing's mean. This, not near as good as the Tiger tank. The Sherman tank, we built a lot more of them. You know what I mean? Like we had quantity, not quality. So if you had 4 or 5 of these, you could take out a Tiger. But one-on-one, you got no chance. You understand? So you see the troops. Now look at the front of this. They got teeth on here. Remember on the beaches, they had those hedgehogs, those metal things they were hiding behind? They took those apart, cut them up, and welded them on the front of the tanks to go through the hedges. Like this. See all the brush on the front of this tank? Yeah, it's kind of a cool thing. I just, I learned stuff, you know what I mean? Just, I've only known that for a couple of years. So, you just learn things over the years.
Wait, why did they put those things on the beach?
Just because you're going through all that brush and stuff, just kind of make it easier to cut through the brush.
On the beaches.
Oh, for the landing craft. So, like, remember the flat bottom boats? If they had to go in at low tide, so all that stuff was visible. Okay. I showed a slideshow. You might have been sleeping that way. But I don't know if I told you guys, those mine tip logs they had the mines on the top. I was reading about this, or actually listening to a video, and they weren't attached. The mines weren't attached. So like, if you nudged that pole, the mine would fall off, like into your boat. Crazy, okay? So, all right, so we're breaking out across the hedgerows. Now, guys, eventually there's going to be 3 million troops. Okay, 3 million. So, most of those are going to be Americans. Okay, and so most of them are actually going to walk across France. Now, some of them are going to have to fight. The guys at the front are going to have to fight, but all the guys that are getting off the beaches later on, 3 or 4 weeks later, there's nobody to fight. So they're literally walking across France to get to the border of Germany. Okay, but we will retake Paris. Okay, you see here, that will normally last till July 24th. All right, Allies had landed 1 million men by that time. So June 6th to July 4th, 7 weeks, landed 1 million men. Okay, controlled 1,500 square miles. Patton, I told you he had his army taken away from him. Right? He gets the 3rd Army. He breaks out. Okay? And a month later, American troops are marching down the Champs-Élysées in Paris through the Arc de Triomphe. Yes?
I was talking to my dad last night, and my great uncle was in Patton's army.
Oh, no. Really? Yeah. Did he ever, did your dad know any stories or anything?
Yeah, he told me some stories. He told me about this one time they, saved this, English pilot that went down and went and saved him.
Like he parachuted out.
Yeah, he crashed and they went and saved him.
Cool.
But, yeah, he was in combat for a really long time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy, man. Grace Johnson was telling her grandfather was on a B-29 over Japan. Flew 30-some missions over Japan. That's pretty cool. So like with Patton, like everybody was afraid of him. You know what I mean? Like his own people were afraid of him. Like he was very strict. So like you had to wear your uniform the right way or you would be fined. You know, all kinds of stuff. But like you either loved that guy or you hated him. Patton. Okay? And a lot of his troops didn't like him. But a lot of them were really devoted to him. You know what I mean? It's like some of your football coaches. Like some of them you're like, yeah, I really like that guy, and then some of them you're like, get that guy away from me. Okay. Yeah. So anyhow, guys, this is one of the most famous pictures of World War II. Guys, the French had been under German control for 4 years. So we're freeing the French, the Parisians, from Nazi control. This is a party. This is a celebration. When they march into Paris and take it, it's fun, okay? Now, in one of the videos I was showing you, the guy that was in Guadalcanal, Richard Tregaskis, he was like a journalist. One of the most famous wartime correspondents of World War II is a guy named Ernie Pyle, okay? And he wrote some books about his time in Europe with the troops. He tells a story about liberating Paris. Now, this is a little bit risque. All right. This is what he said. He said, if you were an American GI in Paris when we liberated it and you didn't get laid, there was something wrong with you. Okay. Because it was a celebration. Okay. The wine was flowing. All right. I know I shouldn't say things like that, but that's what was going on. Okay. So within 6 weeks of liberating Paris, pretty much all of France is cleared of the Germans. Okay? So we're kicking their butt. And on the Eastern Front, the Russians are kicking their butt. All right? So Germany's in trouble. All right? Germans have lost 500,000 men, huge amounts of machinery. Okay? And so we're getting ready to go into Germany. Okay, so by September of 44, we got 3 million troops, okay, ready to enter Germany. Now, the German fortification line on their border with France and Belgium is called the Siegfried Line. Did I talk to you guys about Dragon's Teeth at some point? Things in front of Target and Walmart? Yeah. Here's some good pictures of Dragon's Teeth, like the ones they actually used. Okay, you can't drive a tank or a truck or anything through that. Same thing over here. You can see more Dragon's Teeth over here. Now, this is a big gate, these huge I-beams, so you'd have to have some type of tractor or something to move those I-beams. And that's the place where the Germans would fight, okay? You got Patton, Churchill, Monty, okay? So, now, the Russians have reached the border of Germany where Poland is. But further south, the Germans have dug in at Romania and Belgrade. Does anybody remember where Belgrade is? You guys didn't have to learn the capitals. Serbia. Okay? And then Budapest is where? Capital of Hungary. Okay? So the Germans are battling in the south, but up by Poland, the Russians are ready to go into Germany. So we've got them. It's a pincer. We're pinching them, okay? Now, before we go in, guys, it's time. It's November almost of 44. And what's happening in November of 44? Back home. An election. It's time for another presidential election. So we got to go back across the pond here. Roosevelt's running for another term. Which one is this? His fourth. Originally elected in 32, and we've been talking about Roosevelt for a long time, haven't we? 32 during the Depression, 36, 40, 44. Run for his fourth term. Now, I don't know if you remember this. His first vice president was a Texan named John Garner, who said the vice presidency isn't worth a warm pitcher of spit. that guy. Then his second vice president was Henry A. Wallace, who was his first Secretary of Agriculture. I don't know if you remember that. Henry A. Wallace. So Wallace is his vice president for second, third term. But I might have told you this at the time about Henry A. Wallace, that he was a closet communist. Okay, so guys, Roosevelt's running for a fourth term. Okay, he's not well. Like physically, he is not well. And so the Democrats, he's a Democrat, realize that Roosevelt's probably not going to survive his last term. And we don't want this communist to become president. So they tell Roosevelt, you got to drop him. You got to drop this guy and get somebody else to be your vice president, because the next person is probably going to be the next president. You follow me? So he picks Harry S. Truman, Independence, Missouri. Okay? He's only been in the Senate for like 4 years. Okay? So when he announces his running mate, Harry S. Truman, people are like, Harry, who? Who? Harry Truman? I've never heard of that guy. Nobody knows who Harry Truman is. Okay? Roosevelt's only met him twice. Seriously, they've only been in the room twice together before. Okay? And he picks him. What the hell? Dude, this guy, the whole weight of the world is going to fall on his shoulders when Roosevelt died. You understand? Like the whole war and then the whole post-war thing is going to be crazy. With the freaking Russians and all that, the Cold War, all that, nuclear war, atomic bombs and stuff. Now, this is a landslide. These are the Republican states, okay, that Dewey, let me show you a picture of Dewey, because Dewey will run again. He's the Republican. Okay. Now, they made fun of Dewey. Poor Thomas Dewey. They said, you know, Dewey, he looks like the groomsman on the top of the wedding cake, you know, the little character they have. Or Monopoly guy, you know. Now, look at this picture. This is Roosevelt. This is Inauguration Day, January 20th, 1945. He will be dead by April 12th. Okay, so less than 4 months he'll be dead. Harry Truman's in the middle. Okay, this is a guy named John Foster Dulles. We'll talk about him after the war. Now, you'll notice next to Harry's middle name, there's no period. Okay, that is his middle name. S. Some of you guys have family names as your middle name. Like my daughter has Sue in her name because my mom is Sue, my sister had Sue. Yeah. So both sides of Harry, his mom and his dad both had a family name they wanted to name that started with an S. And rather than fight about it, they just went with S. That's why there's no period. Little presidential trivia there. Okay? And he's from Missouri. He did fight in World War I, Harry did. Now, guys, let me tell you something. Have you guys heard about Joe Biden's poll numbers? Like, approval numbers? Well, what have you heard?
They're really bad.
Like a number. 40% approval, over 50% disapproval. When Harry Truman left office, he was had the lowest poll number in the history of any modern presidency. Now, I teach history. Now, you guys, if you've been paying attention at all, you can probably figure out whether Mr. Ebright leans to the left or the right politically. Okay. But I teach history, and I think Harry Truman did a good job. Under the circumstances, I feel like he did a good job. Now, did I disagree with him on some of his domestic policies? Yeah. But dude, come on. Okay, what he is faced with is amazing. Okay, and then he does some really good things like for civil rights. When we think about civil rights presidents, we think of Lincoln, of course, JFK, Lyndon Baines Johnson, right? We don't think of Harry Truman. Okay, Harry Truman, hey, I like this guy. Okay, now my dad hated him. Yeah, talk about it more, okay? But there he is. He's gonna die soon. So this is like a huge decision. This changes history. You understand? All right. What time we get out? I know. I have it written down. I want to tell you a couple stories. We got 35. Well, don't worry about that. We'll finish this on. We'll finish this on